Be sure to give the video a thumbs up, share your insights in the comments, and subscribe to keep up with our newest tales. At 62, I never thought I would encounter a scenario like this. Life, it seems, was meant to follow a certain script by this point. In the gentle embrace of the morning, I nurture my garden, while the afternoons unfold with the soft rustle of pages turning as the sun sets. I find solace beside my husband Mark, sharing the cherished memories of our journey together. But one evening, a private conversation unfolded, transforming my understanding and leaving me in a state of wonder about everything I believed to be true. Once upon a time, a grand corporate gala unfolded, organized by none other than Mark's company. For more than 30 years, he poured his heart into his work, climbing the ladder with steadfast commitment. Richard Caldwell, his boss, exuded a sense of quiet authority. Our interactions had been limited to polite pleasantries at past events. In his mid-60s, he stood tall and distinguished, exuding a sense of quiet confidence that felt entirely natural. In the heart of downtown Chicago, an upscale hotel hosted a gala where grand chandeliers illuminated the room, creating a warm ambiance for the elegantly dressed guests. The atmosphere buzzed with lively exchanges, the gentle clatter of glasses and the soothing tunes of a jazz ensemble playing softly in the corner. Though I wasn't especially enthusiastic about these gatherings, finding solace in the familiar embrace of home, Mark's insistence led me to don a simple navy blue dress and join him on this venture. At first glance, everything appeared to be just as it should be. As Mark engaged in lively conversations with his colleagues, I found myself immersed in delightful exchanges with the other spouses, sharing our own tales and experiences. Everything changed when Richard came into the picture. "Evelyn, could I steal a moment of your time?" he inquired, his rich voice cutting through the noise of the bustling room. I paused, pondering the request. A moment? What could Mark's boss possibly have in mind for me? I offered a polite smile and nodded, trailing behind him as he guided me through a side corridor, steering us away from the bustling main ballroom. The atmosphere was serene, the echoes of the celebration drifting away into the distance. He led me into an intimate lounge, a snug space adorned with soft lighting, a crackling fireplace, and inviting leather armchairs. In the atmosphere, a quiet yet palpable unease lingered, weaving an intricate narrative of anticipation. As I settled into my seat across from him, an unexpected tension filled the air, stirring something I didn't fully understand. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything crucial," he said, his smile tinged with a hint of anxiety. "Not in the slightest," I replied, though the intrigue stirring within me was hard to ignore. "What's on your mind?" he sighed, rubbing his hands together as if he were sifting through thoughts. Finally, he found his voice. "It's about Mark." At that moment, I sat up straighter in my chair, a knot forming in my stomach. "Is something wrong?" He paused. Uncertainty lingering in the air. "Not exactly. Yet there's a truth I believe you ought to hear." The gravity of his words hung in the air, palpable, even before they were spoken. His expression held a weight that stirred something within me, a silent fervor that sent my heart racing. "Evelyn!" He continued, his voice a blend of warmth and resolve. "I've known Mark for a long time. I've seen him craft his journey, uplift his peers, and nurture his loved ones. Amidst everything I've observed, a certain truth." I took a deep breath. "Can you share what it is?" He leaned in a bit, his eyes fixed on me. "He doesn't appreciate you the way he should." The words hit me hard, settling like a weight in my chest. My breath faltered, and a surge of protectiveness surged through me. I don't understand," I managed to say, my voice trembling. Mark is a good husband. He's always been. Richard nodded. I know he is. But share with me, Evelyn, when was the last moment he genuinely recognized you, not merely as his wife, but as the extraordinary woman you are? I parted my lips to reply. Yet silence enveloped me. He carried on his voice, now gentle and inviting. I've noticed the way your eyes linger on him when he's caught up in his own world. I've seen you linger in the shadows at gatherings like these, as he immerses himself in his tasks. You invest so much, but does he reciprocate? A knot tightened in my throat. I yearned to argue, to assert that he was mistaken. Yet a part of me hesitated. I hope I'm not crossing any lines, Richard remarked, leaning back a bit. But sometimes someone from the outside perceives what those within cannot. I breathed out gently, my thoughts swirling. Richard examined my expression, then gave a subtle, understanding smile. Evelyn, you deserve to feel valued. Those words resonated deeply, awakening something inside me that I never knew was there. For the first time in ages, uncertainty washed over me, leaving my emotions in a tangled web. I found myself completely still, unable to move. Richard's words lingered in my thoughts, awakening feelings I wasn't prepared to face. You deserve to feel valued. Had I overlooked my own worth all this time? I wanted to dismiss his words as just an observation, a kind but misguided gesture. Yet beneath the surface, a part of me recognized the truth in his statement. Mark was a good man, a diligent provider. He had always been steady, dependable. Yet in those hushed moments, the ones that held significance, when had he last truly seen me? When had he last acknowledged the little ways I endeavored to keep our life vibrant and rich? The way I folded his shirts just as he preferred. The way I filled our home with his cherished belongings. The way I stood by him during each career victory. Taking a moment to reflect, I cleared my throat, suppressing the lump that had formed there. Richard first. He raised a hand, halting my words. I don't wish to put you in an awkward position, Evelyn. Yet I felt compelled to speak up. I exhaled slowly, grateful for your candor. I finally spoke, my voice quieter than I meant it to be. Mark and I have shared our lives for decades. There's so much more to marriage than mere visibility. It's a journey of dedication and steadiness. Richard nodded. I understand, and I respect that. He leaned forward slightly, his gaze unwavering. But have you ever pondered what you genuinely desire? The question hung in the air, inviting reflection. What I desired for so many years, I had been consumed by Mark's needs, the demands of our marriage, and the expectations placed upon me. I had never really taken the time to reflect on my own desires. I released a soft, anxious chuckle. Richard, this is certainly an intriguing topic for a corporate gala. That brought a smile to his face. I suppose it is. Yet an inner voice urged me to speak. A hush enveloped us, punctuated solely by the gentle crackling of the fireplace. With a deep sigh, he rose to his feet. I suppose I should let you return, he said. I followed suit, my hands nervously smoothing the fabric of my dress. Indeed, Mark will be curious about my whereabouts. Richard gave a nod, yet his expression held an enigmatic quality. Evelyn had made me a promise, and it was one thing I needed to hold on to. I leaned in, curiosity piqued. What was that? Don't brush off my words. Take a moment to ponder. With a moment of uncertainty, I finally nodded. Very well. He offered me a faint smile and stepped aside, motioning toward the door. As I strolled by, his presence enveloped me, the lingering weight of our earlier exchange resting heavily on my heart. The gala buzzed with life when I made my way back. Mark remained in the same spot, engrossed in discussion with his peers. At first, He was unaware of my presence. I lingered at a distance, observing him. His expressions were lively, and his hands danced in the air as he communicated. There was a part of him that had always captivated me, his enthusiasm, his determination. Yet I couldn't shake off Richard's words. Had Mark ever regarded me with that same intensity? When he finally turned his gaze in my direction, he offered a brief nod before returning to his discussion. Something within me transformed. Richard's words lingered with me, making it hard to return to my usual thoughts. The journey home was silent. Mark sat beside me, his hands firmly gripping the wheel, his gaze fixed on the dark road ahead. The city lights flickered past in a blur, yet my thoughts wandered. Richard's words resonated in my mind, his voice lingering in a way that refused to fade. "You deserve to be noticed." I caught a glimpse of Mark. He appeared weary, a subtle line of tension etched between his brows. Nearly 40 years of marriage had woven a tapestry of memories, each thread, a detail of his face etched in my mind. The sharp lines of his jaw, the delightful crinkle of his eyes when laughter danced between us, the way his lips pressed together in deep thought. Yet, I found myself wondering, when had he last truly seen me? The stillness was interrupted as he cleared his throat, a sound that echoed in the quiet room. "Did you enjoy yourself this evening?" The inquiry took me by surprise. It was a question he posed after every occasion, every assembly, every meal, shared almost as if it were a ritual rather than a sincere interest. I paused before responding. "It was intriguing." He nodded absent-mindedly. All was well, and just like that, the dialogue came to a close. I shifted my focus back to the window, observing the city fade into the distance as we journeyed toward the serene suburbs. Upon arriving home, Mark followed his usual routine. He removed his jacket, placed his keys on the counter, and disappeared into his office for a final glance at his emails. I lingered in the kitchen, gazing at the vacant spot he had just occupied. My feelings towards him weren't rooted in anger. Not really. Mark had always been consistent, devoted to his craft and unwavering in his habits. He had provided me with a comfortable existence, a life filled with stability, yet Richard's words had stirred something deep within me, something I couldn't suppress any longer. I made my way to the bedroom and glimpsed my reflection in the mirror. At 62, my hair, once a vibrant auburn, now bore the graceful touch of silver. Delicate lines etched my face, each one a testament to the journey I had traveled through the years. Yet my eyes remained unchanged. Within them, I discovered a feeling I hadn't recognized in ages: isolation. I had always thought this was simply a part of getting older, this subtle retreat into the shadows, this slow drift into the everyday. But now, for the first time, I questioned if that was truly the case. The following morning, as Mark headed off to work, he kissed me on the cheek and said, "I'll be home late." A significant client meeting loomed ahead. I acknowledged it with a slight nod and a faint smile. "Very well, stay safe." And just like that, he disappeared. I lingered in the doorway for what felt like an eternity, before finally retreating inside. Typically, my days are consumed by errands, housework, or tending to the garden. Yet today, an unusual restlessness stirred within me. On impulse, I reached out to someone whose words had stayed with me. Richard picked up on the second ring. "Evelyn." There was a hint of surprise in his voice. I inhaled slowly. "Do you have time for a cup of coffee?" There was a pause. And then softly, "Of course." An hour later, I found myself sitting across from him at a serene cafe by the lake, ready to share moments and memories. The aroma of roasted coffee beans mingled with the scent of fresh pastries in the air. Outside, autumn leaves twirled gracefully in the breeze. Richard regarded me with a gentle, inquisitive gaze. Uncertainty lingered in the air. As I stirred my coffee, the cream swirling gracefully into the dark liquid, I found myself contemplating whether I would reach out. He nodded, anticipation in his eyes. I took a deep breath, letting the moment linger. Your words have been echoing in my mind. His expression was a mystery. I paused for a moment, then locked eyes with him. You were right. There was a spark in his gaze, an elusive quality that intrigued me, Evelyn. I'm not claiming to regret my journey, I interjected softly. Mark and I have created something enduring, something authentic. Along the way, I think I forgot how to prioritize my own happiness. Richard leaned in a bit closer. In that moment, I found myself swallowing hard. In that moment, uncertainty hung in the air, a stillness enveloping us, punctuated only by the faint murmur of voices nearby. At last, Richard broke the quiet, his tone soft and measured. I simply wish for your happiness. I gazed at him, truly gazed at him. He was a man with no obligation to step into my world. No reason to utter the words he had other than the fact that he had perceived something within me that I had yet to recognize. In that moment, clarity washed over me like a gentle tide. I found myself gazing at Richard from across the quaint little cafe table, my fingers cradling the comforting warmth of my coffee cup. All I wished for was his happiness. His words lingered in the atmosphere, weighty yet soothing, reminiscent of a truth I had long evaded. For years, I convinced myself that satisfaction was sufficient, that safety, steadiness, and devotion formed the foundation of a fulfilling existence. And indeed, they did. But Richard had revealed something profound within me, something I hadn't realized was absent. A yearning to experience. I inhaled deeply, the heaviness of my reflections bearing down on me. Richard, I'm still trying to make sense of everything. His gaze became gentle. You don't need to do anything, Evelyn. Consider. What makes you feel fulfilled? When did you last engage in something solely for your own sake? I was about to answer, but paused. When was that moment I had devoted years to ensuring Mark felt supported, that his ambitions, his aspirations, his universe stayed whole? In the midst of a carefully crafted existence filled with structure and predictability, I found myself questioning my own identity. As I savored a sip of my coffee, its deep, bitter warmth offered a fleeting sense of stability. I pondered the person I had become separate from, the life I shared with my partner. I found myself surprised by my own words. Richard offered a subtle, understanding smile. Perhaps it's time to uncover the truth. I released a soft, anxious chuckle. That seems quite daunting, perhaps, but also thrilling. Wouldn't you agree? I remained silent. I couldn't respond, because deep inside, I understood he was correct. We lingered in quietude for a moment. The outside world continued its dance, with cars gliding by, laughter echoing, and the gentle breeze stirring the golden autumn leaves. Life rushed forward, leaving little room for contemplation, yet, perhaps, for the first time I found it necessary to pause. I placed my cup down and locked eyes with him. Though uncertainty remained, I felt a quiet motivation to reflect on my own path again. A smile danced at the edge of his lips. That's all I wished for you to understand. On that night when Mark returned home, I was already there at the kitchen table, waiting. He hardly glanced my way as he placed his briefcase down and loosened his tie. It had been a long day, he murmured, fatigue evident in his voice. I observed him for a moment. This man with whom I had woven a life, this man I had cherished for decades. As he wandered through the house, An unspoken gap lingered between us, one that had silently widened over time. I inhaled deeply. "Mark, can we have a conversation?" He hesitated, finally turning his gaze toward me. "About what?" I swallowed hard. "About us." His brows knitted together in confusion. "What about us?" I paused, then finally spoke the words that had been swirling within me since last night. "I feel invisible, Mark." He blinked. "What I feel like I've devoted years to being the wife who stands by you, who keeps everything in our life on track, ensuring that all remains steady, and I do love you." Yet at some point, I faded into the background. He frowned clearly, taken aback. "Evelyn, where is this coming from?" I shook my head. "It has lingered for ages. I just never found the courage to voice it." He settled into the chair opposite me, his hand moving thoughtfully over his face. I had no idea. "You held these feelings." I observed him intently. "Have you ever pondered?" He remained quiet. In that instant, I came to a painful realization. Mark wasn't an unkind husband. He didn't intend to be unkind or indifferent. He had merely believed, as I did, that marriage was about the everyday, that familiarity alone would suffice. We had stopped reaching out to one another like we used to, but that wasn't truly existing. That wasn't affection. Not anymore. "What are you saying?" he finally inquired, his tone laced with caution. I take a deep breath. I must rediscover my own path. His expression shifted, a hint of concern crossing his features. "Are you sharing my secrets?" I paused for a moment, then firmly denied it with a shake of my head. "The future is uncertain, Mark. Yet, one thing is clear. I can't continue down this path. If we wish to nurture our marriage, a transformation is essential." He gazed at me intently, and after so many years, I finally noticed a spark in his eyes, understanding. Perhaps there was an opportunity to mend this, perhaps there wasn't. Yet, for the first time in many years, I felt prepared to discover the truth.